exact themes that you are discussing in relation to your topic. Okay. So some students have been consulting this week, and for those who are struggling to come up with subtopics, I firstly said, okay, let's have a look at your overall topic, and then let's go through your objectives. Yeah? Most of you would have had two objectives from your previous assignment. Okay, some of you three, but it's preferably two at this stage. Okay. And I said to some of those students, if you're struggling to formulate a subtopic, more likely your research objectives are something like, for example, this study aims, or how the study will unfold, to explore student teachers' views about teaching reading, or to investigate students' experiences about teaching reading. Okay, so you can still take those objectives and adapt them into a topic, a subtopic for your discussion. So if I have a subtopic, for example, like to investigate student teachers' understanding or experiences of teaching reading, I can adapt that subtopic to something like student teachers' experiences of teaching reading in the primary school, or whatever the case may be. Okay. So it's not completely starting from scratch. You can still refer to your chapter one and take some of those, adapt some of those objectives, or you can adapt the aim if you're struggling to formulate subtopics for the discussion. Okay, that's one way of going about it. Ne? Now, some students did not struggle. Another way of doing it, which I think Nuku in the tutorials, or if I'm not sure if it was Nuku or Raymond, but I know some students said, ma'am, the tutor said I can take my topic and then identify key points from the topic. Ne? So if your topic is something like teaching fractions in student teachers experiences of teaching fractions in the foundation phase. Okay, so keywords in that topic would be fractions, student teachers, foundation phase, something like that. So you would then formulate subtopics based on those key ideas. Okay, so you would have to read literature on foundation phase fractions, or literature on teachers or student teachers experiences, or how they teach fractions, literature that has been published in relation to that field. Okay, that's another way of going about it. So what I want to first ask, because now we will start it from top and then go into the flesh of your actual writing, is there anyone here who is saying, ma'am, can I ask you, here's my example, am I on the right track in regarding formulating three subtopics for your discussion? Let's start with that first, because once you have your subtopics, then now we'll zone in into, when you're writing, what are things that you must be mindful of. Okay. Any questions? I saw Anna, you had a hand earlier on, then you put it down. Mohanedi, was that you? Yes.
Oh, I was struggling with subtopics, but I think the way you explained clarified everything that I needed to know because I didn't attend any tutorial.
Okay. All right. All right. So another way. Now this one is like, I would also say, have a look at your background section, okay? And see if there's anything that you discussed in your background that was a really important point. Okay. Then you can also adapt that. So if you had a point, say, for example, on, I'm just using this example of the topic. If you are writing about translanguaging and code switching, some of your research topic is around translanguaging and code switching. Okay, a good subtopic would be firstly to have one that defines translanguaging practices in the classroom, where you're going to actually outline and unpack What is translanguaging, for example? What is code switching? Why is one preferred over the other? Or why should we not do one over the other? Or why should we be doing both? Okay. So you can unpack, still look at what was really key in your background section of chapter 1 that you can adapt into a discussion. Okay. All of this is interrelated. Ne? In your chapter 2, we should see a link between your chapter 1 and 2. I shouldn't read your chapter 2 and then see that, yo, this is like, it's like a completely different study now. Okay. Whatever your topic is about, you keep to that topic, you keep to ideas that relate to that topic. Okay. So now is not the time to now say, ma'am, my topic is around teaching fractions. Can I also look at how we teach mental maths, or just as a silly example? Okay. Focus on core skills. You can maybe include something like problem solving as a skill for learning and teaching fractions, because that's a skill you need to teach children. How do they problem solve? How do they work with different fractions and so forth? So your discussion can also be centered around, big ideas or skills um, that are important for teaching that particular topic. Okay. Yes, Mbali, go ahead.
Hi, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Ma'am, before you continue, ne,
Mm,
I'm struggling a bit with the introduction. I, I
okay.
don't really know how to start. Am I supposed to take my introduction from chapter 1 and then paste it into chapter 2, but change the purpose statement like the
Mm,
thing I've stated?
the aim, like the purpose of this assignment. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So, firstly, thank you, Mbali, for asking that. And I think some of the students who came to consult also asked me, ma'am, can I just copy that because I don't know what to say? Okay. So, like in any chapter, every chapter will have its own introduction. Okay. So we don't just take the old introduction and just paste it again, because it's the same topic. Ne? You will formulate your introduction based on the key ideas or the key subtopics that you're going to discuss in that section. Okay. Remember in chapter 1, the introduction also gave an overview of the whole chapter 1 proposal. It included right up to the methodology, the design, and all of that. Okay. Now, chapter 2 is only about a review of the literature. Okay. So you will give us a background. If you're doing say, for example, your topic is on reading, né? Nothing stops you from starting your introduction by giving us the context of what does reading look like in South Africa? How is reading taught? What are some of the issues, the challenges? And then set the scene for saying that this is why you are exploring this topic. And in doing so, you are going to unpack or discuss the following themes, or the following themes or subtopics in relation to the main topic. Okay. So you still set the scene, you still give us context, of what is this big problem that you are investigating. You still tell me, I'm investigating or I'm reviewing this literature because, for example, there has been studies by so and so and so and so that show that teaching reading in South Africa is still something that we are battling with because children still can't read for meaning. Ne? Then you now table out your the subtopics that you're going to discuss. Okay, so you can't just take the old one and then just paste it again. You still set the scene. You can refer to your problem statement. Okay, and highlight that issue that you highlighted in your problem statement. Okay, but it'll probably be like a sentence or two. Ne? It won't be the whole introduction or the entire problem statement. Okay, you can take a sentence or two. Obviously, you'll paraphrase it, and that really sets the scene, which could be your topic sentence for why you are investigating this literature and why you're going to review literature on this topic. Okay, so again, it's not a lengthy section. I think it's about 200 words or so, 300 words, like in the first submission. So it's not a lengthy submission. The only thing I changed was the length of the discussion of each subtopic, which is around 2 pages max. Okay. So Mbali, does that answer you?
Yes, ma'am, it does. Thank you.
All right. Great stuff. Good. Anyone else maybe with a question regarding the introduction and the subtopics? Aaron, okay. So Aaron, in the assignment brief, okay, the length of the discussion, meaning the length of your three subtopics, it was saying 2,000 to 3,000 words. Okay. Now, I had one of the students show me, and I was like, there's no ways. Okay. I think I underestimated in my mind. I don't know, but it was an error on my side because it's too long. Ne? Okay. So then I reduced it to, and I sent a message in the group to say, keep the discussion of each subtopic. So each subtopic, you'll have about three. Each one, keep it to a maximum of about 2 pages. Okay. 1.5 to 2 pages per subtopic. Okay. So if you write 2 pages for each subtopic, that's about 6 pages. And then you'll have your introduction, your conclusion, and then your references added to that. So all in all, your assignment might be about 8, 9 pages. Okay. So yeah, that's why I cut it down, because we just need to see, can you review literature and can you write, and support your argument with what other people have found in relation to the topic. Okay. Um, then another question, Rapala. Okay, Aaron, I hope that you are sorted with that. And then Rapala S says, ma'am, are the subtopics more like the purpose statement of an essay? Rapala, just clarify, I'm not sure what you mean by that. The purpose statement is, it's that beginning sentence. We call it a purpose statement or a claim, ne? The one that usually starts the sentence, that tells us what is this section or this paragraph about. Ne? Okay. Your subtopic is really a topic that stems from the main topic. Okay. So if my main topic is, for example, okay, let's look at I'll use yours, Matswai, because you posted them in the chat. Matswai's main topic is student teachers experiences of designing English lessons in the intermediate phase. Okay. And under that, she has the topic, the preparation of student teachers for English lesson design, challenges experienced by student teachers during teaching practice, English teaching in multilingual foundation phase classrooms. I love that one a lot. It's a very nice one. Um, Even the one of challenges experienced by students, very good one as well. And preparation of student teachers. There, that first one can actually come in with number 2. Okay. Yeah, because I don't know what, unless if you're going to talk about how students are trained to teach English, then it would be fine. Otherwise, it can come in with number 2. And then your next one is mentorship and reflective practice in teacher development. Now, look, Matai, can you see that your first 3 subtopics, when I look at them, they relate to your your main topic, né? Because everything in there is about, relates to student teachers experiences, okay? Can be challenges they face, it can be how they are prepared to teach, and it can be also the context they teach in, which is usually typically in multilingual classrooms, okay? Now the last one, now you're bringing in something new, né? You are bringing in mentoring and reflective practice, which is good, but it has nothing to do with your main topic. Okay. So I think it's a good example. I'm glad you included that so that everyone can see that your subtopics, all three of them, must directly speak to the main topic. Okay. So avoid bringing in any new concept that is not already embedded in your overarching topic. Okay. Does that help you, Matsai?
Thank you. Can I please ask something?
Yes, go ahead.
Is it a must for us to have only 3 subtopics, or you can have less or more than that?
Okay, good. So I highly recommend 3. If you have 2, then you still keep to the 6 pages, okay? So meaning you will write a bit more for each one. So if you have 2 subtopics, you will write a bit more for each of the 2, okay? It's not a reason to say, oh, yay, -1. Ooh, -2 pages less. Okay, so if you decide, let's say you go for the challenges experienced by student teachers and teaching English in multilingual classrooms. Say you decide to go for those 2 topics, then I would expect a bit more writing in each of those sections, okay? But I would generally, at this level, we usually prescribe 3, okay? When you do postgrad studies, a chapter 2 really will depend on you and your supervisor. You can have 5 or 6 topics, okay? So at this level, 2 or 3 are recommended. If it is 2, then you write a bit more. If it's 3, then you keep it to that 2-page limit. Okay. I hope that answers you. Okay. I saw a thumbs up here. I think I did. Yes. Good. All right. Thank you so much for sharing and for bravely sharing your topic and subtopics. Okay. And then somebody says iPhone. Hi, ma'am. Do we outline the subtopics? What do you mean? Can you just clarify? Another thing. Oh, yes, guys, please. Matsaiki bone moya haone. When you write the topics, everything, I think in the first assignment, some of you, I might have written it, but I forgot, I might have forgotten to include that comment, but I didn't penalize anyone in that first mark for the topic. Okay. um Please make sure any heading, any topic is written in sentence case, ne? Meaning in small letters. Okay. It's only the word that begins the sentence that is done in that's written in a capital letter. Okay. Otherwise, when I see that, because I know with AI, generally if you use AI, ooh, okay, sometimes it also writes those topics like that. Okay, so it can be flagged like this looks like it has AI involved. Okay, so write it in sentence case, and don't underline any headings. Don't yeah, nothing funny like that. Just bold and in sentence case, then it's enough. Okay. Yes. So the person, Oizen, do we outline the subtopics? Maybe you can turn on your mic and ask it. I don't know what you mean. I'm not sure what that means. Um, oh, yes. So she's saying, do we write the subtopic first before discussing? Yes, please do. Otherwise, how am I supposed to know? Okay, please do, because even though you would have included it in your introduction, but it's good for whoever's going to mark just to be able to follow your train of thought, ne? And for us to see that, oh, you're now discussing this section. Okay. Um, okay. I hope that answers you, Dineo. I don't know if I've asked my question. However, it's what is it that you expect to see underneath each subtopic? Are we supposed to have subtopics? Okay. Yeah, Dineo, no. You are not supposed to have subtopics, ne? Okay. It's not that deep, like where you have very a topic within a topic within a topic. No, that would not even be good academic writing. Okay. So I'll come to you, Mbali, after. So when discussing each subtopic, so if we have, let me just go back to Matswahi's one. Let's use her subtopic, challenges experienced by student teachers during teaching practice, okay? Or when teaching English, whatever the case may be, okay? So under that subtopic, I would expect her to read literature around how student teachers struggle maybe to teach English. Maybe the literature you might read might be on, some of it may be on, student teachers' language proficiency, because there are quite a lot of studies that have, been written about how your language proficiency can either become a good thing, or it can become an obstacle, as a teacher. So if you are not so proficient in English, it will probably make it even more difficult for you to teach in English. Okay. So you may want to read literature like that. So I would expect you to explain under that section, why is it important that you what challenges from the literature, ne? What have other people found as challenges that student teachers may face when teaching English? One example I gave is that they may not be proficient in the language. That could be one of your points that you discuss. Student teachers may also be second or third or even fourth language speakers of English. That may also affect how they teach it, because teaching it means you must have sufficient content knowledge. Okay. You could also discuss something around student teachers content knowledge. Some of the articles you may read may be about student teachers PCK, for teaching English. And some may, you can even draw from South African literature, as well as international literature generally about student teachers PCK when teaching English, for example. Okay. So in any discussion, you always start with what, ne? So under any subtopic, whatever concept you are discussing, describe it to me. Say what it is. Okay. Don't assume that ma'am knows English. Ma'am knows what English teaching comprises of. Tell me, what does English teaching include? As student teachers, to teach English well, or when teaching English, we are trained in teaching language and grammar, children's literature, whatever units you want to outline. And then you describe to me, that's basically under what? You give me a bit of a background to say, what is it that you are expected to be competent in as a student teacher when teaching English? Okay. Then you go to now the literature. In your second subtopic, you could unpack what challenges have student teachers faced. What are some of the difficulties that have been reported in the literature? Maybe students don't struggle to teach children's literature, but they struggle to teach grammar. And why is that the case? Perhaps it's because they themselves don't have sufficient grammar knowledge of the language to be able to teach it well. Okay. So you always unpack the what. What is this thing that you're discussing? And then you go to the why and the how. Ne? Now, the why it's important and the how, I usually can't separate these two, because to say why something is important in research writing, we usually do that by showing who has written about this topic and who else has written about this, that we cite. Okay, so when you are explaining your why or how question, depending on your how you phrase your point, okay, always remember that if you don't support your writing with adequate literature, then it just reads as your own opinion. Ne? Okay. And while I'm explaining that as well, I want all of you to note it down. Maybe you have a notebook with you or something, but I'm also recording this session and I'll upload the link on Moodle as well. Okay. Please, whenever we support our writing with literature, we never ever say research says or generalize and say in South Africa, all student teachers can't teach. All student teachers have challenges with teaching English, Avoid generalizing, avoid saying something where you generalize a statement. If it's a study by Graham 2025 that found that student teachers struggle to teach English. Even when you write it in your argument, you don't say all students struggle to teach English. Okay. So you support that. A study by Graham 2025 showed that students who were assessed or blah, blah, blah struggle to teach grammar in grade 5 classrooms. Okay. So the more specific you are, the better it is, especially because you are learning how to write, in research. Okay. So avoid generalizing. I don't want to see those many children in South Africa. No, we don't. Qualitative literature. In qualitative studies, we never generalize because usually the sample sizes are not that big for us to say this is now a fact. Okay. But in quantitative research, where there are experiments done and so forth, if we can prove that if you mix the color white and the color navy blue, you get powder blue. Ne? That's the color that's their baby blue. Now that's a fact. Okay. So you with facts they are proven, but with qualitative research, nobody proves the research per se, because a lot the research is mostly exploratory in nature. We investigate, we explore people's lived experiences, how they experience a phenomena. So we can't generalize and say, oh, if fourth year students at UJ can teach English well, it means all students in the country can teach English well. Okay, so we say fourth year students, a cohort of fourth year students at UJ, a study by so and so found that they could teach English well. Okay, so qualitative research by nature is exploratory, and we don't generalize the findings for a general population. Okay, so it's important when you write, you are mindful of that. Okay, a lot of you in your first assignment were, and I could understand because it was the first time, writing those. Research says that in South Africa children can't do fractions. Then I would circle and say, I would just circle or underline, because you are saying something like it's a fact when it's not a statement of fact, but it's a finding from a particular study. Okay, the finding is credible because we trust that if it's published in a peer-reviewed art journal, then it was reviewed by other scholars. They authenticated that yes, this person really did collect the data and they found, whatever they found. Okay, so I hope that also just gives some general clarity just around writing and just the kind of common errors to avoid when you write. Okay. Um, okay, any other hands? Any other points? Yes, Mbali, go ahead.
Ma'am, I wanted to ask about the structure of chapter 2. Do we still have to rewrite the objectives, the aim, the research question, or do we just focus on the intro, the subtopics and the conclusion.
Good question. Okay, so in the chapter 2, you just focus on your introduction, the discussion of your subtopics, and the conclusion, and then you'll include your references at the end. Okay, so you're not going to submit, and it's a very good question you're asking, because I know in the past I've had students, every time they submit a new assignment, they include the old one as well. Okay, you don't have to do that at all. Okay, the only thing, just make sure that when at the beginning, your introduction, just make, because you're gonna use that cover page, né? Please, guys, I put the cover page for a reason, because on the cover page you include your main topic, okay? So that as I read your subtopics, I can also refer to your main topic on the cover page. Okay, so absolutely, you don't include the other sections that were in chapter 1, and you also don't include the chapter 1. Okay, it's just the chapter 2 and the references for chapter 2. Don't also include references you didn't cite, né? If you cited an article in chapter 1 but you didn't cite it in this assignment, you don't include that. Okay, you include references that you cited only. And yeah, so I hope that answers you. That's a very good question. Thank you for asking that. Do you still want to ask something else? I see your hand is still up.
No, ma'am, thank you.
All right, thank you, Mbali. Okay, guys, any other questions? Okay. All right. So let me just also just speak generally to references. Please take care of the when I say take care, don't do them in a rush. Let me see. Oh, I see Emily. Oh, sorry, I haven't been looking at the chat. Sorry, guys. I'll go through the other questions on the chat. Let me just start bottom up. Ma'am, how many references are you expecting? The minimum, I, it's difficult to say, but let me just, for the sake of a number, because I know you want a particular number, let's say you can't have less than 5 or 6, okay? And you can still go through the literature that you read in chapter 1. Ne? I'm not sure on the rubric if it does give a specific number, but I think really the minimum would be about 6. And I don't want to put a limit on the maximum. It really just depends on how much you cited. Okay, so that would be the minimum, let's say about 6. Okay. So yeah, Queen, I hope that answers you. And then Kensani, ma'am, can we have independent paragraph where we address the gaps? Oh, ooh, very good question. Okay. Yes. Now in the assignment, and again, I'll apologize if it wasn't so clear. Okay. The gap in the literature, ne? By you, when you're discussing each subtopic, you are highlighting, when you highlight the problem, or what is concerning about that, you discussing the subtopic because there's a particular gap or there's a particular problem. Okay, so as you discuss the section, you can highlight the gap. Say, for example, if we go back to that other topic on challenges student teachers face, maybe a significant gap that you've seen in the literature might be that students don't have enough time to with English modules. Maybe in your the literature you read, it shows the number of hours spent on the content is maybe a limitation. Then that's a gap, but it's already included in your discussion. Okay, so there's no section on a gap. There's no um subtopic that will say these are the gaps. Ne? The gap, anything that comes up as a gap or as problematic, like you did in your problem statement of chapter 1. Your problem statement in chapter 1 was basically highlighting what is the gap that you want to explore. Okay, you highlighted a gap and then you told me that this is why you want to explore this particular topic. Okay, so for clarity, there's no section that will say these are the gaps in the study. Okay, the gap is inherent or it's included in your discussion as you write. Okay. Yes, very good question, Kensani. I hope that answers you and also clarifies just for everybody else. Is that fine? Okay, then okay, Palisa, I've addressed your question that do we have to attach chapter 1 in this chapter 2? No, it's just chapter 2. And then Karabo is asking, since we're building on chapter 1, the subtopic doesn't change, the topic doesn't change, or do we have to narrow it down to focus on specific subject? Okay, Karabo, the topic, your main topic is not going to change until October, when you submit the final research report. Okay, now some of your topics were a bit broad because some of you are mixed, so you'll find that there's IP or FP students, and when you consulted, I would have said no, just say maybe, for example, translanguaging practices in the primary school. Okay, and then I said when you have write your discussion, if you want to focus on a specific phase or focus on specific subjects, like those students who had topics, for example, that were on lesson design. Some students, lesson design, student teachers' experiences of lesson design in the primary school. Yeah, that's a good example. Okay. Some of you, I said, for the main topic, it's not good to include student teachers' experiences of lesson design in math, science, English, social science, blah, 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 blah. Okay. It becomes too long. But I said individually, you could focus on a specific subject. Okay. If your research topic was that open, then I said someone could focus on, if you want to focus on language or you want to focus on mathematics. But the key thing is when you do your research presentation in October, you all going to share findings that speak to experiences of lesson design. Okay, even if one was focusing on maths, another student focused on social science, somebody focused on language, it's still in relation to lesson design. Okay, so yes, you can narrow it down to a specific subject. Okay, if that will also help you with the specific literature that you're going to read. Okay, and if you're having a topic like that, also check out Dr. van der Merwe's work. He writes a lot on the science of learning, and he's published a number of articles in lesson design. Okay, so go to Google Scholar and just search him, Van der Merwe D. I know he also published an article on the science of learning. I think it was in 2024. Okay, so you can check that out as well. Okay, so Karabo, I hope that answers you. Nuku is asking, I'm the one who uses the term subtopics to make it easy for them to understand that each paragraph. Oh, okay, I get you. Now I get it. I thought it was like you're writing a main, like a subtopic, and then another one, and then another one. Okay. So what Nuku is saying is very important. Whenever you write in a paragraph, say our theme, our topic is on the importance of eating 5 fruits a day. Okay. And in your first paragraph, you want to talk about why bananas are important. They give us they help to remove lactic acid in the body. So if you're a person who exercises a lot, bananas are good because they help the muscles to repair themselves. Okay. My second paragraph now deals with apples. Apples are very good source of energy and fiber. If you eat an apple in the morning, it gives you more energy than drinking a cup of coffee. No? That's a fact, by the way. Okay. So you unpack each one and its characteristics and why that one is important. Okay. And you do the same until you've discussed all your 5 fruits. Okay. So that idea, as simple as it sounds, even when you write, think about, oh, if I'm writing about challenges that student teachers face, here, I'm not going to now write about something else and bring in a new idea. If this paragraph is about mentoring experiences at will, I'm going to keep this section to student teachers mentoring experiences at will. Ne? Then maybe in the next section, the next paragraph will deal with student teachers mentoring experiences during the funda practicum or teaching practicum, in the teaching school. Okay. So it helps you to keep your ideas clear and to not overlap. Ne? Because what ends up happening is that now you start repeating yourself. Okay. So just be mindful of that. Okay. So, yeah, absolutely right, Nuku. It's important to keep one idea in each paragraph that you're discussing. Okay. And then the next one was Emily. Okay, Ceci, I'm gonna come to you and Zoteti as well. Okay, a little offense, ne? Because you posted them. I just want to address Emily's one, then we'll go back down. Okay, Emily. Oh, I think you want some feedback on that. Challenges faced by student teachers when teaching reading constructs in African languages. What are reading constructs? Yeah, I would probably refine that to have a look at your objective and see what did you say in your objectives. Ne? Okay, Emil, maybe something around exploring or reading constructs, or yeah, I just feel like just saying what are reading constructs, it feels too plain. I don't know. Okay, have a look. I would rephrase that one to something like the importance of you know teaching reading constructs in the foundation phase, ne? Just make it a bit more specific, ne? Or the importance of teaching the different constructs of reading in the African languages. Okay. um, Pedagogical challenges faced by student teachers. Again, they make it specific to your topic. Ne? Student teachers' difficulties with teaching reading in the African languages. Okay, that would be more direct. Because what pedagogical challenges? Is it about maths? Is it about science? You see, it's too broad. Make it specific to your topic. Student teachers' difficulties with teaching reading in the African languages, or challenges of teaching reading in the African languages, okay? So that it still clearly relates to your main topic. Ne? Yeah, the third one, challenges teaching reading constructs. Again, what about it? Student teachers challenges of teaching reading constructs when in the early grades, in the foundation phase, in the intermediate phase. Okay, just give it a bit more specificity, just so that it's not so broad and making it relate to other things as well. Okay, I hope that answers you. And then let me go back down. So we have offense. Ma'am, do we write the subtopics like introduction, literature, and conclusion? Or must we have the required subtopics? Yes, offense, you'll still have the headings for each section, okay? You'll have the heading, the introduction heading, have your introduction. Then you'll have the heading literature discussion. And then you have your 3 subtopic headings as well, okay? And under each subtopic, your discussion. Then you have the conclusion heading at the end, and then the last thing would be your references as well. Okay. Yes, so you must still have those different headings included as well. Ne? And then T Toteti. Ma'am, is this the last consultation with you, or you can book her face to face? No, it's not the last one. I did it today because I was not on campus. So I thought if I'm not on campus, I cannot, not have anything, because I know that a lot of you would still have questions to ask. No, I am going to be on campus again tomorrow, but I know a lot of you and on campus fourth years, from 11:30. I'm at Funda in the morning for evaluations until about 11:30. Then from about 12:30, yes, because I have a meeting with Nuku. From about 12:30 to about when I leave the office, when 2:30, I'll be there physically on campus. If you are around, you can pop by tomorrow between 12:30 and 2:30. Okay. Alternatively, next week, Monday and Tuesday, I have two research meetings. So, and they are like full day events. Ne? So I'm not going to be able to be on campus. Most of the lecturers won't be on campus, especially on Monday. Tuesday, it's some of us. Okay. Then I'll be on campus again on Wednesday. Okay. Now on Wednesday, it's not normally my consultation hours, but I am on campus on Wednesday from about 9 o'clock till about 2 o'clock. Um, and again on Thursday as well. Okay. But yeah, Thursday it will be too late because you're submitting on Friday. Ne? But if you must come on Thursday, then it's fine. Okay. You can still come on Thursday as well. But I'll also put a message in the group chat so that you just have the reminder. Okay. Yes, I will put this recording on Moodle. Ne? Okay. Okay. Sorry for that. How are the subtopics and objectives in chapter 1 linked if they are? Now, if I use that example, Katleho, to say that if you're struggling to come up with subtopics, go to your objectives from chapter 1, ne? And reformulate that into a topic. Your objective would have been something like to explore student teachers' challenges of teaching reading. Ne? You can rephrase that objective to a topic. Student teachers' challenges of teaching reading. Okay, so that's what I meant by if you're struggling to come up with subtopics, then go to your objectives and rework those. Okay, Ore, please, mommy's in a meeting. All right, okay. Matwai, I think somebody's hand was up. I can't remember if it's yours, but yes, the recording will be on Moodle. Okay. Yes, unless if maybe I addressed your question. Yes,
Well,
oh, it was
it's
Mbali.
about, no, I wanted to ask about the reference list, ne?
Okay.
Is it a must for all of the sources to have it in DOI, or it can be some?
Oh, good question. Okay, so sources that must have a DOI link. Any journal article, okay? All journal articles should have a DOI link. Ne? One way to get the DOI link is to copy the entire reference. I use Google because it's just easier that way. I copy the entire reference on Google. And then when I do that, I will have, usually if the author is on ResearchGate, I will see that first link for ResearchGate pop up. Then I will click there because on ResearchGate, if you update your publications, you always have to, as an author, you must always also add the DOI link. Okay. If you don't see the very first option on ResearchGate, you can scroll down. Sometimes it gives you a URL. So a DOI link has that HTTPS. A URL just has maybe the link, the URL from that university website or that journal website. Okay, so it will either be a URL or a DOI link, but typically for journals, it's usually a DOI link. Ne? Then other sources like an ebook or books, those usually have a URL. But some book citations, if it's like a physical book, it will have, you must include the it'll, all of you included the publisher, most of you, I think, but you must just search the location for the publisher. Okay, book references must have the publisher, the publishing company, and then the location of the publishing company as well. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I hope that answers you, Mbali.
No, ma'am, that wasn't me.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. Okay,
Okay,
guys.
but ma'am, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Ma'am, under each subtopic, ma'am, what is the structure? Like, with each subtopic, do I name the challenges? Do I explain? Obviously, I have to explain what it's about.
Yes.
Do I also have to conclude each subtopic? Like, what's the structure for that?
So there's no conclusion per se, like you don't write a conclusion for each subtopic, ne? But in your discussion, now it's hard to say must you have challenges for each one. You take a stance, ne? One student this week asked me, ma'am, when I write, do I find literature that supports my argument, or do I find literature that opposes it? Okay. And I said to her, for now, you want to find literature that supports your argument. Okay. Yes, when you do postgrad studies, you will also learn how to write, that counter argument where you show that you agree with, the literature, but you also show a counter argument to say, even though I agree with the literature, there are studies that show the opposite of what I found, what I'm talking about. Okay, so that's for a much later stage. It's not for now. Okay, what is key for you to do now is to include. Or please, mommy's busy. Go ask daddy to give you what. You must include the discussion, the what, and then the why would be basically citing literature that supports your argument. Okay, so the same way you wrote something like your background section, how you wrote that, because even in the background you still addressed key areas in relation to the topic. Okay, so there's no recipe, Bali, there's no specific structure, but it's an argumentation. When I read your subtopic, I must be able to see by the literature you are citing that you are supporting your argument. Okay. You don't want to refute it at this stage because it's a much more high level skill that will be for postgrad studies. Okay. But when I read your work, if you are saying that in your argument that student teachers experience challenges with teaching reading in the foundation phase, I must see that you cite work that shows that honestly, in undergrad programs, most student teachers struggle to teach reading in the foundation phase. Okay, if that's the stance you are going for, then your argument must show me that. Okay, so you can't cite one person and then say you are arguing that student teachers struggle to teach reading in the foundation phase. Okay, does that answer you?
Yes, ma'am, it does. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Sorry, guys. I have to stop the recording for now. My daughter is back at home, so it's now difficult. Okay.